Hello there, Maurice Termel here. The website is NoLostHope.com. Today's video article is Grieving a Parent. Losing a parent is something we all have to face at some point in our lives. At a young age, this is particularly difficult, so we rely on adults to show us how to grieve. Sadly, most adults are poor models of the grieving process as a whole. When we lose a parent in our adult years, we are facing a changing of the guard, so to speak. The older generation is leaving, which leaves us without a buffer to our own eventual demise. We may have just lost our last surviving parent, or we may be facing our first loss, which means we will have a surviving parent to look after. I lost my mother in 1999. She was 75 years old and had a heart condition. She was facing her third heart surgery since having turned age 50. This one was aimed at solving heart valve malfunctions that affected her energy and breathing. During surgery, she had a heart attack and went into a coma. She was put on life support while we, the children, and our dad were being notified and asked to consider some possible options. We all concluded that there was no point in prolonging her suffering through extraordinary measures that could only extend her life by a few days. Most of our family was present when the medical staff took her off life support. There were 20 of us in the room that evening. My dad, my wife, my 5 siblings and their partners, and an assortment of grandchildren were all present. We watched as she took her last few breaths and then waited until her body became still. There were tears, of course, but there was also relief. My mother's suffering was over, and she was at peace. These moments are lived with great intensity. You feel everything that's going on in the room. Everyone present is in a state of heightened sensitivity. We cried, we laughed, and we cried some more. Each of us kissed her and said goodbye. It was beautiful and heart-wrenching all at the same time. Our mother was a well-loved woman. She had a unique connection with all of us, her children, our spouses, and her grandchildren. She was the family matriarch, and her death left a big hole in our social structure because Mum was the hub of the wheel around which our family circulated. My family and I grieved openly during the funeral services. We cried when feeling overwhelmed, and we laughed remembering her kooky style of relating to us. My mother's first language was French, so her English suffered from some weird and unique adaptations that generated smiles whenever you heard them. I cried readily for her. She was easy to love. I had seen her grow since my childhood and young adult years, and I was genuinely proud of how she stood up to her church's rigid stance on birth control. She put herself on the pill in her mid-30s after 8 pregnancies and 2 losses, and told the priest that she would do her confessions directly with God from that point forward. This was quite a stance for a woman of her generation, having been raised in rural and very conservative Quebec. My father is still with us, but he's fading. We have moved him into a care facility in the last couple of years, and he'll soon be turning 87. Memory problems, mobility problems, and general lack of awareness are ready reminders that his time is coming soon. Parents shape our lives from the day we first arrive. As children, they are like gods to us. They have the power to hurt us or to help us heal from our emotional bruises. They teach us what they know, by word and by deed, good, bad, or indifferent. We absorb much of our personality style from them and exhibit certain traits later in adulthood. Some of us are flattered when reminded of this. Others become very defensive, having decided long ago to be nothing like them. We carry them in our hearts long after they have passed. Like it or not, they were the main influences that shaped our lives. We absorbed some of their habits and a good portion of their worldview long before we knew how to shape our own. If we have put our parental demons to bed, then it is easier to let go when they pass on. If we haven't, then we may feel stuck because we can no longer confront them on matters that deeply affected us during childhood. As a therapist, I've worked with a lot of individuals who were grieving the loss of their parents. They displayed a number of similarities and some major differences as described above. Those who held on to their simple childhood beliefs about their parents' godlike nature are typically left shattered. Those who had worked through their childhood resentments had an easier time, and their grief proved to be more amenable to treatment. This is what happens when we are grieving a parent. Unresolved issues leap to the surface and can no longer be avoided. These become topics brought to the therapist's office or addressed in a grief support group. These are the issues resonating at the heart of your healing journey. Repressing them keeps them alive and percolating away in your subconscious. Addressing them, releasing them, all with the right kind of help, will move your grief recovery process along. If you want to move forward, you must reach out for help. In so doing, you will heal and learn something important about yourself in the process. I'm Maurice Trammell. This is an excerpt from my book, How to Cope with Grief and Loss. You can read it online at NoLostHope.com. Thank you for joining me.